like I said, with this culture, potentially of this new society, of, you know, that kind of open source idea where, listen, there's no stealing. Like, you have an idea, make it happen, get other people on board with you to make it happen as well. Oh, someone else is going to do it and try to do it better. Cool, you know, like, instead of
encourage it.
Yeah, encourage it, and then, okay, maybe you both do something well. You know, since there's no maybe like super profit motive, it's just like, what's the best way to do it, which is what engineers do. What engineers are really cool. That's what they really care about for the most part. Like, they all like smart, very egotistical, and think they have the best way, but they all really care, I think, for the most part, about doing it the best way. And if someone's doing it better, they'll accept that, and then they'll probably just be like, oh, take these pieces, you know, that work really well for us that maybe we have a little bit better. Let's merge these things, and then you just have a better system, right?
I think you hit the nail square on the head. I think if you remove the profit part of the society, like a true sharing economy, if there's no profit motive behind it, it's everything you do is for the greater good.
And that's how we work. That's how society really grows. That's how we hit the next level. I think capitalism, I'm grateful for it. So with profit, right? That is kind of what drives our society right now, for the most part. Is we're all looking to get more money, and businesses are looking to profit, just grow profit, and that's how they look attractive. But as humans, right, we are better at working together. That's our main advantage, I think, as a species, is our ability to cooperate. If we can really maximize that, that's what takes us to the next level, right? Like capitalism, that's what I was saying. Capitalism was what got us here. You know, we have to respect it, which is be like, hey, it did what it needed to do. It got us to this level where we can now take it and live in abundance.
They're not satisfied with being $1 million company. Now they want to be $1 billion company. Now they want to be $1 trillion company. So they have to reward their shareholders, and that's capitalism. But even people in society, like, the more money you make, you always seem to spend more money. It's like keeping up with the Joneses. You need a bigger house, a nicer car. You need the boat because
it's all
your other friends have a boat. Now you need an airplane. It's like it's the culture. People will get caught up in that profiteering culture too. So if you're in this island context and it's a sharing economy, and if you remove that from the equation, it's a very interesting, I think, utopian kind of a lifestyle where it is a sharing economy, leveraging the abundance of resources more efficiently. And one thing I've noticed, and you kind of touched on this too, is that when there's a problem to solve, like especially the urgency of it, I think humankind does gravitate to just saying, let's just solve this. Let's just roll up our sleeves and solve this together. I've seen movies like the meteors coming to Earth, right? And then now they have to figure out how to save the planet because the meteors coming.
Honestly, that's why Watchmen is one of my favorite movies. Because I'm sorry, this is spoilers, everybody. But I'm sorry if you've seen it.
I haven't seen it.
Oh,
I know what you're talking about.
Okay. So in Watchmen, what this guy who's brilliant, he was one of the main superheroes in this crew that was kind of an old group. He comes in and ends up formulating this plan to get the world to bring. He's looking to do world peace, like really bring the world together. But in order to do that, he has to make one of the the most omnipotent, coolest superhero, which makes him kind of smarter than that guy because he's able to outwit the basically this omnipotent being that's called Dr. Manhattan into basically looking like he was attacking the world, and that brought the entire world together because the world needs to kind of come together over something over kind of a catastrophe, which is a sad thing, but that's what will bring the world together.
That seems like the only thing.
And I hope it's not the case.
Yeah, it's a common threat that we all have to... I mean, imagine, I guess, if cancer started spreading at the rate of 1 in every 2 or 3 people are now getting it. You know, all of a sudden. I think as traumatic as that would be, I think it's catalysts like that do say, okay, now everyone has a self-preservation interest.
That's what it goes down to, right? And that's what's sad, too. It's like, that kind of is happening with global warming, but since it's so slow and it's not an immediate danger, and 1 million people haven't died already because of it, people are like, well, we got some time. And it's like, well, I don't know about that. But also, have you seen Arrival yet?
No, I haven't.
That's a phenomenal
It's on my list.
About the world coming together through an alien coming, but it's not It's not dystopian. It's really good. I highly recommend checking that one out. I'm not going to spoil that one, but yeah, that's kind of, I think, where we have to go, is to more of a cooperative society, and forming culture is, again, the common thread, the key thread to any of this happening is, what's the culture like? In our culture, that's where we got at through what you're talking about with, we focus a lot on materialism and how much money do you have.
Yep.
And that's what a lot of people really focus on, because that's what's ingrained into us from childhood. It's all heredity, right? Yep. Passing those ideas and those stresses on around money to the next generation, and then they get those, and then just as a perpetual cycle. And it's like, we need to get past that. Yep. But the only way to do that, I believe, start over, because getting everyone to change their cultural values and be like, because there's so many people really connected to capitalism. Just like, I'm a capitalist, I'm a patriot. And I'm like, cool, man, be that way, but we might need to, you just need to look at a different perspective for a second. And a lot of people won't even consider looking at another perspective.
But I think in this it's setting where you're on this island, and that's the culture of the island. Yeah. I think you do need to learn how to fit into societies, when you're in to function within that society. Yeah. So if the society was based on a sharing economy, non-profiteering, the excess of resources was harnessed to, share the lawnmower, share the car, share the compute. I think it does create a setting that allows people to work together to be more effective at everything. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I do agree. And it has to do with that culture and that environment you're in. Yeah,
totally. And even last night I was thinking too about, how would it work for a living, let's say, right? And I was like, I kind of had a vision, right? I was doing this interesting kind of, they're called thought experiments, right? Where you kind of just let whatever come to you. Einstein used to do it. This brilliant guy who apparently figured out the origins of life, Bruce Dammer is his name. And he's about to release it, I guess. It hasn't really come out yet, but smart dude. He does these thought experiments, which helped him kind of come to how he got to his realization about discovering that discovery. But I was like, all right, let me give it a shot, see what happens. Not that I'm saying that this is the case, but when I was doing this, I was thinking okay, what might housing look like? How would that operate, right? Would you just go in and everything is where it is? Would you, kind of purchase a house or a place? And what I personally saw was, I was in an apartment. I was, I got up, did my thing, looked around, saw my kids, went outside, and I was like, that got me thinking about okay, well, how did I get that apartment there? And I was like, it was just a room. You just get a room, you get an empty room, and then you just get to pick the things you want. You just say, okay, I want these things, and then you get to construct that room however you want. And the size is based on what you need. Yeah. Not based on what you want necessarily. It's what do I really need? And I was like, okay, it might be based on family size. You have 5 kids. You might need a couple more rooms, right? Yeah. I'm a single guy. I probably need a little less room. But maybe I'm a single guy and I love working on cars. Oh, well, maybe I need a bigger space because I do need that space to do my car stuff. Yep. Then that makes sense, right? Yep. But it should be based on really what you need, not necessarily on what you want. Because then we get into kind of what was going on with the computers, right? Where we have a computer that's doing things, but a lot of it is spent idle. Why not use that space should be used for something? Kind of exactly. Nowadays, someone has a giant mansion, that space is not getting used for anything. If there's 3 people in a house and they have 14 rooms, well, you don't need that much space. You're just doing it because it makes you look better, which isn't necessary and doesn't make you any happier.
As you were describing the island and this new economy, my mind was thinking all the houses look the same. There wouldn't be this enviousness or saying I need something better. But I liked your point that it probably would be based on number of occupants. But then as you were even describing that, my mind went to thinking, well, what do you really need a house for? Sleeping. Yeah. And, some living. But what if you had even smaller sleeping quarters and more open, nicer furnished areas for common living areas, then I think you're even it's maybe the next level of that sharing, but you have a little bit of privacy for sleeping when you need it. Yeah. But because your house might be idle 80% of the time while you're out in the world, right? So then what do you what do you do
really
with
need
that
all that
space?
even, right? Do you just really need a place to sleep and maybe do some private work?
So maybe there's the common areas that more and more people kind of spend most of their living time, and then those can come and go and change. But then you're right. Then you need a smaller space for more or less privacy, sleeping, whatever.
Yeah, and doing whatever other work that you might be doing for your
it's a very fascinating idea what this could look like.
Right? It could look like anything, and that's the thing. That's the thing I think people need to break out of is we get so stuck in because, again, a lot of this comes to education, and we're in this mindset that this is the way things are. This is how they're always going to be, and stick with that. And don't question it. That's how it is. But I believe anything's like this. All this is nuts. Like at one point, this computer was nuts. At one point, these drums, like in this form and fashion, were an insane idea. But someone did it, and that's how everything is. That's how society can be. It's just like, are you going to dedicate the resources and the time to making it happen? That's really all it takes.
Well, I was thinking too, is like the world population. It's continuing to like. I think we only had 3 billion people.
Yeah.
Like what, 10 years ago? I mean, I don't know the numbers, but it's growing at a massive rate. The world population. Mm-hmm. Countries like China, I mean, they're running out of land space, right? Yeah. So I mean, island or not, I think some of these problems, like with countries and population, might start having to resort to things like this to fit more people in the footprint. Right.
But I think you got to be careful with it though too. I think you're right. But like with countries like China doing it, it's dangerous because they do it in like we're going to shove you in here and you have no choice, right?
That's true.
There's like
it's not a sharing economy. It's enslave almost feeling economy.
There's a really good article that Elio, actually I had Elio on your recommendation on my podcast, of course. I love him. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
And we had a great discussion. But one of the articles he said I had to read before we had our discussion was called Manna. Have you read that?
I haven't.
Read that, Manna. Okay. I've been thinking a lot about it. It was a fantastic. It's like an extended article. It's like a short story that's like 8 chapters, online, free. But it talks about kind of the two versions of what could be what could kind of happen when like kind of robots take over.
Oh yeah.
And one is like robots kind of control people to do everything and just become like it turns their brains off because it's telling them to do what to do.
Skynet, right? They're in control.
Yeah, exactly. And then but the opposite idea at the end shows like, or it could be like they aid us, which is what we should help them do, which they could be and should be, right? Is they're just helping us get to where our next stage or whatever it may be.
They're mowing the grass. They're driving us around. Yeah, they're shopping for us. Yeah, the drones are delivering our food.
Yeah, and creating all the things. Like there's going to come a point where robots can create whatever we want, right? Which we're really close to that point now, I think. I mean, Tesla right now is pretty much like a fully, like they maybe went a little too fast is what we're finding out, but they'll get it figured out. I'm sure Elon Musk will figure shit out. But a robot can now completely create a car, right?
Yeah,
you just give it the right resources.
Yeah. So when robots start building other robots, that's usually bad signs.
Unless we make sure they're building the right robots. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, you got to be careful. Well, let's just. Maybe not humanoid. Let's just make them not humanoid and make them connected to the ground. And then they can if they get angry, they can wave at us. But they can't come attack us.
As you were describing that, I think I would. I'm not afraid of robots by any stretch. I love robots, and I see the robots and humans living together very peacefully and aiding us. What I think is a fear that I have is this world of virtual reality. I haven't seen Ready Player One yet, but from what I get out of it, it's kind of where I'm going with this is if people start getting addicted to virtual reality and they become living in that life more than they do in the real world, with the economies that we have today, you don't ever actually have to leave the house. Like I remember 20 years when the internet first came online, there was experiments with people trying not to leave their house for a year and trying to do things, but it's a reality now. Like Amazon just delivers you stuff. You literally could not leave the couch.
Easily. And a lot of people, I think, don't.
You literally could live in this new alternative reality, a virtual reality, and just become obese.